Good morning, everybody. How are you today? It is 9 a.m. on a Sunday. That means it's time for Lisa's Changing Perceptions with your host, Lisa Efflandt. Lisa's Changing Perceptions is brought to you by the generous support of the Bremer team, Keller Williams, North Shore West, right here in McHenry, Illinois, over on South Green Street. They bring families home. BremerTeam.com for all your real estate needs. Give Dawn a call herself, 847-456-6334. We sincerely appreciate the support of Bremer Team, Keller Williams, North Shore West for Lisa's Changing Perceptions. Lisa, good morning. How you doing?
I am well, Pete. How are you?
I'm awesome.
We were just talking about that. It's like the longest 30 seconds of my life that I sit here and laugh. I don't know what else to do. Good morning. I'm Lisa with Lisa's Changing Perceptions. I am a hypnotherapist and self-empowerment coach. And officially, as of last week, I am a certified practitioner in neuro-linguistic programming. I finally finished one of my certifications.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Getting another one. 2/3 of the way through my second one, I took 2 different modality styles for it. So anyway,
what does that mean? Modality styles.
It's just different techniques, different perspectives of it. Some of them are more in depth than others. It's 2 different instructors with 2 different. The concept is the same, but how they go about doing it is different.
Okay.
So I took it from both instructors. So I'm getting certified by 2 different instructors that just have completely different technique styles. I've never been one that really likes to follow rules or instructions. So I guess I wanted to explore both sets of views, and then truthfully, in part of it, I'll create my own. I'll take that knowledge and take my intuition and add them together and create my own. If you'd like to book a session with me, you can contact me by text or call at 262-573-7055. You can also reach me at lisaschangingperceptions.com or lisaschangingperceptions@gmail.com, or on Facebook under Lisa Changing Perceptions, or of course, as always, at 216thenet.com. You can leave a message and Pete will be sure to get that to me.
Absolutely.
Also, if you ever have any questions that you'd like to ask or you'd like me to address on the air, please feel free to send them in and I'll be happy to do that. I'm still looking at maybe once every 4 to 6 weeks doing a question and answer show where you guys can come on live with me and ask me and pick my brain and do what it is you want to do. So this week, we're actually going to talk about last week. Last week, we had Lori, who was so sweet as to come in. And I got some feedback afterwards, and I'm trying to find the world. And actually, my second instructor taught me this, is to not look at things as criticism, but as feedback, because that's what life is for us. Life is feedback.
Right.
It's response. And so we don't need to look at it as criticism, but I was kind of surprised by it. So I guess I'm thinking I should have done this show and then seen Lori, but maybe this is the best way. We'll just trust that it was, because there's nothing I can do to change it. Some people felt that I was very hard on Lori. And so I thought, oh, that's interesting. That's a perspective. And obviously I didn't get hundreds of calls about it, but people who knew me well. And bless Anita's heart. You guys have all met Anita on the air. She called me because at first I thought you were, but then I knew you have a method to your madness. You wouldn't just put pressure on somebody just for kicks. I knew you had a method to your madness. So I watched through to the end and I could see where you were going with it and I understood. But in that, because 2 people who knew me brought that to my attention, I'm going to assume of the 700,000 listeners that there might be a couple more. So I decided that this week we would address it on the air. And it does actually have to do with the neuro-linguistic programming certification that I've just received. And I hope that after we talk about this, maybe you guys go back and rewatch the show from the perspective of understanding where that was coming from. And why I was doing that, and it might make more sense. So again, if I should have done this show first, I apologize. Lesson learned. When the future, when I'm doing something different, I'll do that. And a couple things, because I've actually talked to Lori since then a couple times. I've checked in with her to see how she's doing, and I actually told her about the feedback that I got, and she was surprised because she didn't feel that way, which is also really interesting that it's perceived on the outside that way, but she didn't feel that way. So I got her permission to discuss her on the air, and then I'm going to also discuss some other things about it on the air. First off, and my friend Anita told me, I said, what's funny that's the perception of it, is that Lori was my client in the past. And then she was doing okay, so she kind of took a break from it. And Lori had called me and asked me to address this topic with her because she wanted to get past it. So and Anita said, oh my gosh, it would be good for people to know that. Like, I don't know if people thought I just pulled a random stranger off the street and thought I'd put him under the gun.
Hey, you, we're going to dig into your brain.
Yeah, so she knew what she was getting when she came. She wasn't sure what I was going to do, but she kind of knew that. So it's really interesting to me that the perspective was what it was when even the person who was here didn't get that. So I thought, okay, you know what? That's a good opportunity to explain what that is and why we're triggered by things like that. Because obviously when we get kind of passionate about something or make a judgment or a decision about something, it's because it's triggering something in ourselves,
right?
And making us uncomfortable. So I thought this might be a good opportunity to do that. And here's the truth, guys. I'm just going to tell you, I didn't go into schooling to do this for a living, believe it or not. I love somebody who was in a lot of pain, and the things that were available to them weren't really effective for them. And I went on a search for how to help, how there's got to be another way. There's got to be a deeper insight. So much childhood wounding and implanted thoughts that couldn't get changed, and so much pain and struggle from it. So I kind of started this as a venture for a situation and have, it's rolled into what it is now. I do this with my whole heart. And the funny part of it is what people don't realize, and I decided I'm going to share it on the air because it's true, is that each time I take a class or I get a certification, and I go through this, it digs up my own ick too. So, I've been in a class and they're teaching something and all of a sudden I'm getting triggered and tears start coming, and I'm having all these visions and memories and things coming up. So I understand what people are experiencing, and I have compassion for that. So there's a true compassion for that. And being an empath also makes it a little more daunting because I can physically feel what they're feeling. So anyway, we're going to talk about it today. And if you have a question, feel free to type it in or whatever. And actually, when I explained to Lori how people felt about it, she's going to try and call in at 9:45 and talk about her experience and what it's done with her this week. She wanted to come in and be on the air with me again, which I'm so proud of her for because she's so shy, but she wasn't able to. So she's going to call in for that. And we're going to talk about it. Cool. So first off, what I did with her is actually one of the modalities within neurolinguistic programming. And if you look at it, watch it back again, you'll see I didn't actually tell her anything, and I didn't tell her to do anything. All I was doing was asking questions and then repeating her responses and mirroring them back to her. Mm-hmm. And it's just a repeat. Because what happens is when we get something locked in as a decision that we feel is true, we've decided is true. And I say that and people are like, I would never do that. These are things that happen when we're really young and we don't even know that we've made the decision necessarily, but we've locked it in. And what happens is that we make other decisions throughout life based on that initial decision. We've talked about it even with the hypnotherapy and things. We talked about it where by the time we're 8 or 9, we have all these little decisions that we've made about life. And, just for the record, the average 9-year-old hasn't had enough life experience for these decisions. But it's how our brain works. Because our unconscious mind is meant to protect us and keep balance in our world. Keep balance within us. So from birth till 8 or 9, we're absorbing everything around us and we're making decisions. We're making decisions of right, wrong, good, bad. And not everybody has 100% great experiences.
Right.
Okay. So we make those decisions and then we make all kinds of other decisions based on them. But once our critical mind comes in and we filter it into our conscious mind, which is what we think and screw up our life with now, right? Mm-hmm. It's being led or guided by this unconscious mind. So our beliefs and how we feel about ourselves and the decisions that we make and the choices that we make are based on our inner 9-year-old in a way. So if Right. So
Yeah.
we're kind of letting them guide us. Now, it's perfectly, I want to say normal, if you want to consider it normal, because it's how it works. But it doesn't have to be that way. And that was the search that I went on, was how do we get down deeper? How do we get past the facade part of it? The fake, the smile. How do we actually feel the smile?
Well, and that actually has prompted a question from Shayna this morning. Shayna says, "Good morning, by the way."
Good morning.
And she says, "Do you think your approach with people gets intuitively gauged?"
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because just like the show, I don't use a script. I don't pre-write a show. Pete and I have talked about that before. I just come on here and start talking. In school, I'm given scripts. I have scripts that I can read from.
Which is truly nerve-wracking for a producer, but it works. She's the only show host I let get away with that. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I have scripts that I'm given with my school, with college, you get books and blah, blah, blah. And I have scripts that I'm given to do things, and I've never read one. Everything I do, I trust my intuition. My faith. I mean, I use a standard protocol kind of guiding. You know what I mean? There's kind of an outline, basically, that I follow for most things. But yeah, I trust, and my faith says that they know better than we do. My faith says that I have to put my ego in check and trust what I feel, think, and shown during. So yes, oftentimes I'll have a plan in my head with the client as we're going into a session and as we're kind of rolling through something. And all of a sudden I'll get a picture of something different or a word. And I'll change my terminology and maybe use a word that I wouldn't normally use just because it's me. It's not my terminology. And I'll use that word and you'll see somebody go, "Oh, why'd you say that?" I don't know. Why did I say that? You know what I mean? Then I can start pulling and digging. So absolutely. I trust my intuition and my faith. Sometimes I say to detriment because it's not always easy, but yeah, absolutely. It's guided that way.
Yeah.
And truthfully, and without sounding too ego filled, I believe I'm allowed to do that. And I believe that they help me to do that because in truth, my intentions in life are pure. Am I perfect? Am I a saint? Absolutely not. Flip my bitch switch and things don't go great. So I'm human, but my intentions are pure, and especially working with the client. And the reason that I got into this was a pure and unconditional response to a problem. But within that, I'm finding that I'm having to peel my own onion, so to speak. And it kicks my butt sometimes. And just to make people more comfortable, anybody who ever tells you that they're above struggle or they're above self-reflection or they've gotten past the difficulties in that or that they don't live in their ego, they're all full of shit. We're just gonna put it out there, because for the record, I'm to the point now where I've peeled the onion so much, and all the things that I do with a client, I do myself. Like I self-reflect and I look and I go, ooh, I didn't like, ooh, look what you just did. That was ugly. Why'd you do that? And I do all that mind talk with myself too. And I've kind of gotten to the point now where I'm to the center of the onion. The liquid, eye burning, tear watering, even think about you're going to touch it part of the onion. And I'm struggling and I feel kind of stuck in that, I know she talked yesterday about being stuck and I'm feeling kind of stuck in that. And I'm afraid to grab it because every time I grab it, the juice comes out, the tears come, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. And so I actually made an appointment with my instructor. Because I thought, wow, he's been doing this 25 years and I really resonate with him. When he teaches, I resonate with his style of it. So I have an appointment with my instructor to help me push past. All of us need something sometimes. All of us need some help. And the truth is we're all screwed up in our own little way. That's it. It's really as simple as that. There's no shame in it. To me, we are not our mistakes. We are not our past. We are who we choose to become in spite of it or because of it.
And Shayna actually asked another question.
Okay.
Says, because of everything, what you do sounds so interesting. Have you ever felt the need to discontinue working with a client? And if so, why?
I have discontinued working with a client a couple times, not often. One client I actually refused as we started our first session. if I feel that there's a mental emotional struggle outside of my realm of education or experience or knowledge, I will refer to someone more educated in specific areas of mental and emotional health care.
Mm.
If I have a client who is coming in and the minute they sit down, I know that I'm just the new person in the world that they chose to challenge, and that they have zero interest in actually doing the work.
Yeah.
I have no interest in that. And it's not a spiteful thing. It's just a matter of what I do, especially because it's intuitively attached, requires a lot of energy. And it requires a lot of, because I'm an empath, of me exchanging energy and absorbing energy, and I don't choose to do that.
And describe, for people who don't know, describe empath, because that's relatively it's
a thrown
newer
around
to me.
Statement now, right?
Yeah, and it's newer to me.
For me, being an empath is, and everybody has a different term, and there's also different degrees of it. When I sit next to someone or even communicate with someone on the phone, or whenever I choose to take the time to make a connection, and obviously the deeper the connection, the deeper it is, I can actually feel their emotions. So when I say I understand, I can feel that. I mean, I'm literally feeling and taking in what they're feeling. Physical ailments are the same way. If I sit next to somebody who's in a lot of pain, I have to be very cautious to go, okay, no, don't block this. Don't absorb this. This isn't yours. Because I'll feel their physical pain. I've met people where all of a sudden I'll say, if you did this with your knee, that would help it feel better. And they're like, how'd you know something's wrong with my knee? It's just what I do.
Yeah.
So that's, for me, that's what an empath is. Now, we're all empathetic if we're human.
Right.
Some of us become mean to avoid the feeling, but every human being is empathetic. We all have a level of empathy.
Right.
Being empathic is the absorption of other people's feelings, emotions, energy, and physical feeling and understanding of them. Some people say it's excess compassion.
Now, is that the same as feeling somebody when they walk into a room?
That's feeling an energetic. That's being somewhat empathic, because you're feeling, basically, being empathic means you feel energy.
Yeah, because it's
the level of energy you feel is based on the level of empath that you've developed.
Okay.
I didn't know when I realized that, I see and hear dead people, and I thought, wow, that's cool. Let's go with that. Let's grow that.
Oh, that's what you thought.
Yeah,
well,
I didn't realize all the things that came along with it. And of them, being empathic is probably the greatest blessing and the greatest curse. Because then it forces us, and that's what I mean by it brings up our own gunk. It forces me to look at where my boundaries are. Because there are people in the world who will take advantage of somebody who's got empathy, because it's an excess compassion at times. And there's other people that are in so much pain, and you absorb what they feel. I have a relationship in my life where even if we are hours apart and haven't spoke for weeks, I will physically feel their anxiety attacks. They have abdominal issues. I will feel abdominal pain. I will hear their mind talk on occasion.
Wow.
To the point that I even sent a text the other night that said, this is no joke. Take something for your freaking stomach. I am trying to sleep and it's killing me.
Well, Kent says, takes a lot of your energy being an empath. He says, being in a big crowd is very stressful when you're an empath. And Kent does not like big crowds. I have, Kent avoids crowds. He's never been to a concert.
Because it can kind of be like a bipolar mental breakdown, depending on where you are when there's that much energy coming in. Because if you're feeling all that energy, you're physically absorbing all that energy. And then someone's standing next to you that's got trauma and they're faking it for the night. And somebody over here is angry because so-and-so did this right before the show, or they didn't get, you're in there going, woo.
Yeah.
And then you've got to filter. You got to be deeply empathic and then function. You have to learn what your own filters are, and in doing that, you got to filter your own junk.
Yeah.
So filtering your own junk is really hard. And so that's why most people don't do it. It's kind of like I was to say with the gushy part of the onion where I'm at now. I'm getting towards the center because I've done a lot of work. And now it's this really skanky, smelly thing that anytime I even think about it, my eyes water, and we're dealing with it. And we all kind of get there at times, or at least close to it. And we kind of have a choice. And so I tell people, you're not your past and you're not your mistakes. We're what we choose to become because of it. And I'm a believer that until your last breath, you still have opportunity.
And Shayna also asks, would being an empath make people more susceptible to PTSD,
Absolutely.
BPD, or other issues? She also says, please forgive the excessive questions. That's what this show's
right.
for.
That's
Shayna.
what I'm here for. And absolutely it would. And that comes along with the filtering, because when we can't filter and decipher what's ours, what's someone else's, and when we're overly sensitive to things, we absorb it so much more. So absolutely. I mean, there's aspects of my life that I believe I have a PTSD response to. And that's why I started kind of going, oh, you know what? Look at you go. You just learned to do this so that you could have this person do this. And then look at your own junk coming up. And so that's why I am truly a believer that until your last breath, there's hope. So you're never past that, but you have a choice to make is when you get to that stinky part of the onion is, do you look at it and go, okay, I'm going to do this. We're going to do this. Or do you hide it and pretend it's not there? Do you pick it up and throw it at someone? Because that's deflecting, when we're projecting onto somebody else. Some people are really good at it and they can throw it and hit you in the eye with it so that your eyes are burning instead of their own. Those are the signs of who we are and what our character is. And those are the signs of who we become. It's not our mistakes. It's not our past. It's what do we do once we realize, and that's the key. Once we realize and acknowledge that something that we're doing or a behavior that we're doing isn't bringing positive things into our lives and isn't making us someone that we're proud of,
and with
what
that,
do we do with that?
Kent actually says, and keeping in mind what you just said about behaviors and that not working out too well, Kent says, I have been to sporting events, but end up watching people more than watching the event. It is very distracting. Kent also goes on to ask, can an empath feel more emotions rather than physical pain?
Yes. But here's the thing, and I want to explain something about Lori before she calls, but yes, and here's the thing is that our body responds to our emotions. So emotions can become physical pain because we're absorbing them. And if we don't know how to clear them and look at them and understand that filtering, they can become physical pain. They'll store themselves. Just like I know somebody who went for their first massage when they were 50 and the next day had complete emotional mental breakdown. And I was like, what's the matter? I don't know. But when I was talking to my chiropractor about it, because he's into all the holistic modalities, he's like, oh, that's emotional release because our muscles have stored all those emotions. So when those muscles got loosened and the toxins, because we know sometimes when you get a massage, you get nauseous. That's the toxins that are coming out of your muscles. You drink a lot of water and you flush it out. Well, emotions are stored there too. So when those start coming out, all of a sudden it's like this whoosh. But it's a release. And it's just like crying. Crying is so healthy. Now, I don't mean walk around in sadness and bawling all day is healthy. That's not what I'm saying. But when something comes up and it makes us cry, allow it. That's energy leaving the body. And I've told people, look this up. This is scientifically proven. If you look up tears and the energy within tears, the reason for the tears, meaning we cry for different reasons. Sometimes we cry because we're happy. Sometimes we cry because we're sad. Sometimes we cry because we're in pain. Tears are for different reasons. They actually studied them under the microscope, and the crystallization of them is different depending on what they were coming for. They will crystallize differently. So the reason I called the show is when stress is a gift is, again, we're going to go back to Lori for a minute here and how people saw that. If you watch the show again, I did not tell her anything to do, and I did not offer her any information about how she was feeling. She had gotten a hold of me and said, Lisa, I can't get past this. Do you think you can help me get past this? I seem to be locked into it, and so on and so forth. So if you watch the show again, all I was doing was I was repeating questions back to her understanding how she was feeling, listening to how she was feeling, having respect for how she was feeling, reflecting back to her what she was saying so that I could have understanding and make sure we were on the same page. And we just went through that cycle in that process. Because here's what happens. When we're young, it's not 100% of the time, but the majority of the time when we're young, somebody says something to us, somebody does something to us, or we make a decision of what is right, what is true. And when it's locked in there, it makes sense. But as you can see, if you watch the show, as I repeated back to her what she was saying and gave new examples, in other words, new framework for what she was saying, which is why I brought up like my husband, because it's what she was saying, but it's in a different perspective that she's not attached to. There's no emotional attachment to her, but she could then see it from a different framing, a different perspective, a different point of view. It started to make her uncomfortable, but I wasn't making her uncomfortable. I mean, that was my intention. I was putting a little stress on her, okay, by listening back to what she was saying. And all of a sudden, her mind, her conscious mind went, but wait a minute, when you put it like that, it doesn't make sense. So then you keep repeating it back and it's called reframing, and you keep reframing it in different perspectives and repeating it back. And you're only repeating what they're saying. And what happens is that stress causes a little bit of discomfort. Well, your unconscious mind's job is to keep you in balance and to keep you safe and alive. That's its job.
Yeah.
So by continuing to repeat it back to her and continuing to reframe it for her and continuing for her to see it in a different perspective, but I was only saying exactly what she was saying, just in different ways and showing it to her. Her unconscious mind is going, shut the hell up, lady. You're making me uncomfortable. I got to find a way to get balance and be comfortable again. So finally, after breakthrough, as I could see her eyes moving and I could see her different, I would stop and go, whose voice did you hear just now? You know, it's not mine, right? Whose was it? I don't know. Okay, let's just keep reframing. Keep reframing. Let's just keep reframing. And then I noticed that there's facial gestures. There's the way your eyes move. There's body tensions. There's ways that we're trained to watch for to know that moment's there. And the second time I said, who'd you just hear now? And all of a sudden she went, oh my God, when I was 3, such and such said this to me. It broke through that when she was 3, somebody had said something to her, and her inner 3-year-old, which at the time wasn't her inner 3-year-old, she was 3, made a decision that was true. And she didn't even know it. She didn't remember that.
Yeah.
So part of the purpose of all the reframing and the mirroring back and the showing somebody what you're saying in a different perspective and continuing to kind of do that and put the pressure, the stress, is that your unconscious mind says, no, we can't be in stress. I have to find balance. I have to shut this lady up because what she's telling me doesn't make sense, and it's making me not make sense, and that causes me stress. This is why.
Yeah.
And it's like the 3-year-old who finally screams, because I'm mad at you, because, you know what I mean? Versus just having their tantrum. And it surfaced up, and she got to see it. Stress and pressure done appropriately helps that little part of you finally say, enough already, and this is why, and tell the truth. How many times relationships, let's go there.
Yeah.
You know, what's wrong? Honey, is something wrong? No, I'm fine. No, nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
And honey, is something wrong? And you continue that. And then what finally happens when there's a real problem?
Boom.
The volcano of everything wrong with you erupts. Yeah. Because that unconscious mind says, I'm out of balance and I'm uncomfortable and I need to spill it out. So it's a way, I don't start fights with my clients, although I did have a client this week sit in my office and say, why the hell do I come to you? And then asked to come back next week. So yes, it's uncomfortable. And yes, kind of my job is to make you a little uncomfortable. But it's not to harm you.
Mm-hmm.
It's to help that little inner voice that you don't even realize is affecting your entire life. For 57 years, she's been holding on to a belief that somebody told her when she was 3 and not even realizing it.
Yeah.
So that kind of pressure forces her unconscious mind to say, leave me the hell alone. Nope, leave me alone. Leave me alone. All right, lady, here it is. Good. That's what we want. Bring that up. Because now it has no more charge. Now that we're aware of it. Anything that's dark that you bring to the light, it's no longer dark.
Yeah.
You can see it. It's no longer hidden. It's no longer a secret. It's no longer even scary because it's a realization. So, how do we make a diamond? Under
A lot of pressure.
How do I make it a pearl? Under pressure.
Mhm.
Like how does a bird find life? How does a bird learn to fly? How does a bird
It gets
soar?
kicked out of the nest. You're
After
either going to fly or die.
after battling the pressure of the egg.
Yeah.
It's got to work its way through the pressure of the egg. And once it works its way through the pressure of the egg, it gets to soar. We're the same, but we need to kind of break through that. But our human minds and our egos, sometimes it's our ego and pride. Because when it's our ego and pride, that's actually the worst. Because one of the most difficult things in life that we can discover in aspects of it is that the thing that we always believed was bullshit. Especially depending on how many years you've been believing it. You know what I mean? And then to realize it is like, oh, that's kind of awakening. But then there's going to be those moments of, nope, I'm going to reject that. I'm going to reject that. And it's not that it wasn't true. It's that now it brought up something new. Well, if I reject that, even though I know it's true, then there's something inside of me that won't allow that to be true. And that's affecting my ego and my pride, which is still affecting my life. And what's causing that? And snowball effect. It kind of starts to happen. So we reject it until we're ready. Would I ever force a client? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because there are times when you're not ready. If I know I'm going to go in deep with the client, I'll say, is your unconscious mind, are you willing to give your unconscious mind permission to release this and your conscious mind to be aware of it? It doesn't happen often, but every now and then somebody will say no. It'll be their instinct reaction. No. Okay, then let's not do that today. Now I can know until I'm blue in the flipping face that they need to, but if that's not something they're ready for, I'm going to cause more harm than good. Because now they're going to reject help.
Yeah.
They're going to push the help away. So sometimes people aren't ready. But the truth is that these thought processes that we deal with are embedded down in there. And are they all bad? Absolutely not. Our unconscious mind is to keep us alive and to make rational choices and to keep our balance. And for the most part, the majority of that's good. It's what it's done. We're still here, right? But sometimes we've decided on something that isn't good for us. And it causes us decisions and behaviors and coping skills that don't bring happiness to our life and actually bring more turmoil. And those are the times that we have to stop back and go, you know what? Is this worth it? Is it worth it to be uncomfortable for a short period of time to have all this other period of time no longer feeling that way and be able to change more easily? Or is it worth it to just stay miserable and to continue these repeated behaviors all the time? Those are decisions that people have to make. And my instructor happens to be a drug and alcohol specialty. And how he said it was perfect because I've tried to explain it to people before. When he works with somebody who's past withdrawal is when he works with them, same as me. But they'll say, oh my God, I just want to go drink. And I'll go, okay, give me 5 minutes to prove to you that you don't. You don't want to go drink. You work too hard not to.
Yeah.
You want to be released and relieved of the discomfort that you're feeling in this moment. Will you give me 5 minutes to show you a healthy way to try before you make your decision? Because the person's not bad. They're not bad. They're not weak.
No.
They're in pain and they need the pain to go away. They're trying to get the pain to go away, which is why people tend to then go run. Because when you run away from something that's uncomfortable, just like a gazelle runs from the lion, there's an adrenaline rush. There's a chemical reaction to that running and escaping something you fear. But it's temporary. Because the next time the gazelle sees the lion, they're going to feel exactly the same way. So running is still temporary. It's still going to continue to affect you.
So what if you have a habit of seeing the lion and deciding to run at the lion in order to just hit it and get it out of the way?
Then my question for that, if you hit it and win, game on. But if you keep hitting it and you come home with scars and wounds and you're infected and you still keep going after it and even realizing you can't beat the lion, then you have to say, what am I hiding from that's so valuable that I'll give my life rather than look at? What do I need to challenge? When was I challenged and told I was weak when I lost? But you know what I mean? There's just a series of questions you'd kind of start digging for that. But what happens is we judge people without realizing they're in pain. They're in pain. And we all do it, and we all respond that way. And it's each individual person's choice as to whether, again, they want to take the stinky part of the onion and throw it at somebody else's eye to make them feel the burn, or whether they're gonna, they're gonna cut it up and kind of peel another layer of it and look at themselves, or truthfully, or whether they put it in the fridge for a little while and say, "I'm gonna pretend I don't have it."
And Nanette actually adds, I felt tons of emotions and past traumas surfaced after seeing my chiropractor. They said the same thing as your guest speaker. This is a very interesting topic. And yeah, Nanette, thank you.
Yes, because your body absorbs those things. Think about it. Everything in this room right now is really just a molecule. Nothing's truly solid.
Right.
They've proven that scientifically, even us.
Yeah.
Nothing's truly solid. So they absorb and they grow and they expand and they grow on each other. I mean, we weren't born this size. You're welcome, Mom.
Right.
We started out as a cell. And then we had to grow. We had to do, and they're even proving now that sometimes people are born. So I'm iffy now when I say birth to 8 or 9, because they're even proving now, and we're not even going to get into past life conversations, that in the womb, if the mother experiences a trauma, the baby will absorb that energy of the trauma. And they're finding that they can have similar aspects as if it happened to them.
Wow.
Because they're absorbing that energy in there. These are just things that they're outside the box to people. And I think that mental and emotional health care is starting to kind of catch up a little bit. I'm finding that the people with the big degrees are starting to ask more questions, and starting to go, but wait a minute, I've got a client that has blah, 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 and I have conversations with them about it or whatever. I'm not saying that I know more or less than them. We do it differently. We have a different perspective of it. And for some people, one thing works, and for other people, the other thing works. But as far as the stress goes, people in our world, people in our life, my faith would say, are placed in our lives to mirror back to us what it is we need to see. Even someone who really pisses us off, they're pissing us off for a reason. What about them is making you so upset? Because truthfully, why are they more valuable than you? You know what I mean? Like, and we all do it. And sometimes our relationships are our biggest mirrors. My belief is that that's placed in front of us so that we can look at it. And we can choose to hit the mirror and break it and push it away.
Right.
Or we can look at it and go, you know what? Why is this bothering me so much? Or why is this person reacting to me this way? Where's the conflict here? And they can be mirroring of what it is that we need to see. Funny enough, the relationship that I went into all the schooling and stuff for, I've always said is my greatest blessing and my greatest curse in life as well. Because although I push in that, as I push, I feel my own muscles burn.
Wow.
And I have to look back and go, oh, why are you doing that? Or why are you expecting that? Or what are you deflecting from it? And we do this. And if we can look at the situations and the information in life as feedback for ourselves, and responses, and take accountability for it, because we can't change anything that we don't acknowledge.
Right.
But if we can start to look at acknowledgement of it as growth and strength versus weakness and failure, because think about it, it's really freaking hard.
It is freaking hard. And
so
Nanette,
how is that weakness and failure?
Nanette has 2 questions, and we'll put some stuff out to help you. Nanette says, are you seeing clients in person? What town are you located in? And we'll put some of Lisa's contact info up for you, Nanette, right now. But
my office is in McHenry, Illinois, but I am able to do phone and remote sessions too. So location is not. Thank you to technology that I'm being forced to learn. Location is not a stipulation or a difficulty within it. I can help from wherever. And I'm even kind of starting to get into the thing because I am, just for the record, I'm very well aware that this is not an inexpensive thing. And it's for the same reasons other things aren't. There's overhead to pay. There's, you know what I mean? There's things to do. So I'm also considering doing group type things, if somebody can't afford it, because one of my things I've been asking Spirit is, I mean, I can call the electric company and tell them I'm nice and they don't care, just for the record. So it has to be something that I can have a life with. But I said, Spirit, the truth is that some of the people who need me most can't do that. So what do I do from here? So this is one of the things that I've kind of come up with, is to go, okay, you know what? Some of these things, not all of them, but some of these things I can do with a group of 6 or 10. You know what I mean? And I can set it up that way and do those group things. So that's another alternative for that. Since, thank you for bringing up a session. I would love to see you.
Well, and there are people who, I was really surprised for one of our shows that is on Friday morning. And a co-host on that show said that, and I put out that he would like to find a group of men who would just simply like to talk about life and issues and have deeper conversations just from a men's perspective.
Besides
because,
there you go, buddy.
Yeah. He doesn't want to, hey, bro, or,
right.
Balls, go sports.
Right.
He doesn't, he wants something deeper than that. And that's not something that I was happy that he shared that, because those are things that people just a lot of times don't feel comfortable saying, hey, I want this, or I need this, or I'm looking for this.
And what a great opportunity for kind of expanding and bringing yourself into a room full of mirrors to kind of get different perspectives and different ways to see things. And it doesn't mean that we're right or wrong either. That's a weird society thing, that there's only one right way and one wrong way. Do no harm is the right way. After that, well, let's just kind of go with it and see how it goes, because your right and my right aren't necessarily the same thing, And why is that? Because our life experiences are different. Our wounds are different. There's just so many aspects of it and so many things attached to it. And society says, well, especially right now, and we do not get into politics on this, but truly there's like this divide of yes or yes.
Right.
Either you're this or you're that. And there is no in between, and there is no expansion. And it's really causing, in my opinion, so much detriment to people who are trying to sort through struggle and difficulty, because face it, I don't care how old we are or how ballsy we are or whatever words we use, there's all of us still kind of don't want to be the person who's way too far outside the box, because we don't want to be in that situation and we don't want that discomfort. So to me, I'm hoping to show people how to kind of get through this discomfort. Like when Garth was on, one of the things that Garth and I talked about, he came on the air. Garth has been in recovery for a long time. And he said, what is your goal? And he said, what is your goal at the end with me? Like, he kind of wanted to know where we were going, which is fine. He needed to have an idea for that. And I said, to help you understand that you can be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, and we really can. There's different levels of discomfort. And when it gets too much discomfort, we need to look at why, so that we can, I tell people, because I had a lady come in my office one time and say, can you just make me forget something ever happened? Okay, first off, no. And secondly, why do we need to do that? Let's just look at it. Because face it, I can do all kinds of magic tricks, right? And I can pluck the flower off the dandelion. And what's going to happen in a couple weeks? The dandelion comes back.
Yeah.
I want to go in there. Let's rip out the root of that sucker. So that, I think this is Lori calling.
Dig in there.
Can I click Lori
on? Go ahead and click Lori on. And while you're clicking her on and getting her in.
Do I put it on speaker, or does it automatically go there?
It should automatically go there.
Sorry, guys. This is new for me. Lori, are you there?
Give it a shot.
Lori, are you with me?
Try it again. Lori?
No, it hung up.
Oh, it hung up. You have her give a call back. But Nanette actually says, I like your group idea. Refreshing to hear you speak of your faith openly, as that's one of the only things that keeps me going some days.
Absolutely.
Glad I'm listening this morning. and that's that's a very interesting subject for me.
My faith is a literally live or die by it. I don't always like it. Just so not to put myself too high up on a pedestal. I do flip the bird to them every now and then because I'm in anger. So, but that's my faith. My faith says that I'm allowed to do that and I'm allowed to express those things. There we go. Lori, Lori,
can you hear us? We can hear her.
You can? I can't hear her.
I can hear. I tell you what. Why don't you go ahead and unplug that?
Hello, Lisa?
Oh, there she is.
There she is.
Hi, Lori. How are you? Can you hear us?
Hello?
Hi. Can you hear us?
Apparently, she can't hear us.
Well, I'm not
we
on
can
mute.
we can hear her fantastically. So I tell you what.
Oops, it hung up again.
I tell you what. Why don't you go ahead and unplug from that? And if she calls back, just hold your phone on speaker up to the microphone.
Okay.
So.
Sorry about that, Lori.
And
that's her. I'm trying to call you.
Yeah, we could hear you.
I'm going to call her.
So, there you go.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lori. We had you. You couldn't hear us.
Oh gosh.
So
good.
now I've got you on speaker right next to the microphone.
Thank you.
So thank you for calling in. We've been talking about the different processes that we kind of work with, and I called the show today "When Stress is a Gift."
Yes.
Because I told you that it was funny. The feedback that I had gotten was that people thought I was mean to you and too hard on you.
Not at all. It helped me have a breakthrough, actually, and I didn't realize. Well, I kind of realized, but all my stress and worry about the animals, yes, it's real, it's present, but it does go back further, and it's no judgment on my parents, but probably they were either saying something to each other when I was that little, or they were saying something to me, not meaning it. And so I was carrying that charge, that scar with me. And the process did help me because we have a very sick goat here at the farm right now. And every time I start to get, my stress level gets really high, I start to touch that knuckle, I touch my hand, and it brings me to more of a balanced place of calmness. And it's just lasting longer and longer because I keep practicing it. So I think it was a great session. It was awesome. And just learning through that, having such a breakthrough is just, that's a beautiful challenge. And you've just brought me more joy to my life, and I'm more present with the animals instead of just in this worry, anxiety mode. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you calling in. And that for those who didn't see the show, she's talking about pressing on her knuckle. Is once we had breakthrough and she had a memory come up from her unconscious mind, because her unconscious mind needed to shut me up in the moment. It was fed up with my questions. It allowed the part of the core, part of the root to come up. And that was a memory that she had back from when she was 2 or 3 years old. And so once we kind of released that, we were able to replace it with the pleasant thoughts and the truth, because she had a distorted view of the truth. And so once we were able to pull out where that distortion was coming from, we could replace it with what the reality was, which is that these animals look at her in adornment and gratitude and love, and she's offering them something they wouldn't have if she didn't have the heart that she had. And so we placed it, and it's called an anchor. So we pull her into that situation, we pull her into that feeling, and then I put pressure on her knuckle. And we repeated it a few times. So what she's saying when she's touching her hand is that when she puts pressure on that knuckle, her mind remembers, oh, when I feel that, I remember this. And we're replacing that distorted perspective that she's, bless her heart, been carrying for 57 years, right? and we've replaced it with the true reality that her conscious mind was able to decide, not a 3-year-old who got their feelings hurt or, their heart broken. And now, so when she presses that knuckle, her brain goes, oh, that's right. This is how it is. And it's reminding her. And bless you for saying, because I didn't tell you this, I wanted to see the response, for saying it's lasting longer and longer because I'm practicing it more. Right. That's what brain rewiring is. That's how we
Okay.
rewire that process, because your brain will kick back and it'll go back into, no, wait a minute. I don't care. I'm doing it the old way.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So by you continuing to do that, and the more you do it, what your unconscious mind, or think of it as a 3-year-old, okay? Because your 3-year-old's wanting to kick back after a few minutes. 3-year-old to do something new for a little while, then it's going to go back to what it's comfortable with, right? I mean, just the reality. So it'll try that, and you keep going, no, that's not what we're going to do. And when we do that enough, your brain, just like a 3-year-old would say, fine, I give.
Right.
And that becomes the new behavior. And that's really what you're doing. And thank you again for bringing that up, because people wouldn't realize it and I didn't explain it, is that you're teaching your mind how to see it more clearly and differently as the adult wise woman that you are. So in that process, and repeating that process, the more you do it, the more your brain gives in. And there will come a time in the future when it's the natural response.
That's awesome.
You don't have to push your knuckle.
And to her,
thank you so much.
To her, you can share with her that Wendy says, "Darling girl, you are an angel to the animals. I admire you so much."
Oh, that's for you, Lori. Did you hear that?
I didn't.
No, go ahead and tell her. She says,
you have a listener saying that you are an angel to the animals and that they adore you very much.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Well, you're an angel too. We're all angels, and thank you for the vote of confidence. It keeps me on my path and keeps me doing what I'm doing. Thank you so much.
You and the animals are blessed to have you, and I am blessed that you called in, and I thank you very much for taking a couple minutes out of your very busy day to do that.
Thank you.
Go kiss my goose, and I hope the goat does well.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Take care.
All right.
Have a beautiful day.
You too,
Bye-bye.
boy.
You may want to explain
what that means. There is a goose. That's Lori. For those of you who missed it, Lori owns Stardust Animal Sanctuary, and Stardust Animal Sanctuary in Richmond, Illinois. They take in animals that no one else will take, and because of medical conditions or mental emotional trauma, or just the stories. I'm suggesting that she does her own show and does a new animal every week to have people hear the stories. But there is a goose there called Sweetheart that I say should be called Hugh Hefner, because he loves women and he rubs his neck on you and he wants you to pet him and he'll chase you around until you do it. And I absolutely love him. So when I said she should give my goose a kiss for me, that is what I'm referring to. It's a real live goose. And I want to say he's like 16 or 17. He has arthritis. Like, he's just this really old goose. But when you go in there, truly, he comes running to you like a dog and nuzzling you with his head, like, pat me right now. And when you do, he stretches his neck out, rolls all over you, like, oh my God, they're touching me.
Wow.
And so that's why he's my favorite.
And speaking of touching, Denise Maple says, "Oh, good reminder. I forgot that Lisa gave me a physical touch point to bring me back." And then Shayna says, "You should close every show with 'Kiss My Goose.'"
No, we're going to close every show, and I keep forgetting to put it up with Keanu, call Lisa.
Oh yeah, I didn't. We can throw a little. Well, someone can hashtag that out there for us. But
and if any of you listeners know Keanu, tell him the number. He can call in. I'd love it. But he has to call it on screen so I can really believe it's him.
Yeah. So, and again, we can pop that right there. Hashtag Keanu, call Lisa. And then we can actually share your contact info again. And Lisa's phone number, by the way, is 262-573-7055. And of course, you can contact Lisa to schedule a session with her, whether you're remote over the phone or in her office in McHenry, Illinois. You can reach her at lisaschangingperceptions.com, or you can send her an email, lisa@lisaschangingperceptions.com. You can also reach her at the studio here at 216thenet.com through the contact page, or 216thenet@gmail.com. We'll get any notes to Lisa you'd like us to share. And of course, Lisa's Changing Perceptions is brought to you by the amazing, wonderful, generous support of the Bremer team, Keller Williams, North Shore West, bremerteam.com, 847-456-6334. They bring families home for all your real estate needs. Now we actually have 5.5 minutes left, rather. So anybody with any questions, please shoot them out here to Lisa. And Lisa, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would just like people to remember, when I tell you that somebody or someone in your life putting pressure on you is something reflective to help you. I never mean domestic violence. I never mean harm. Okay. I mean that when something stresses you or just makes you feel discomfort, it's an opportunity to ask yourself why. What about this is bringing on the discomfort? When something is a repeating pattern in your life that doesn't bring happiness or joy or move you forward in a positive direction, it is an opportunity to ask yourself, why do I keep repeating this process? Where's the benefit? Because, and real quick, actually, I do want to cover this because one of the comments that was made to me when people misunderstood that I was not being hard on Lori was we were saying all kinds of positive things in there. We were saying how wonderful she was, and you were just like pushing her and pushing her and pushing her. First off, she chose to come to me because she knew I would push her. She wanted to get past something. But secondly, what happens, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be kind, so do not misunderstand this, but there's a reason that the pressure helped her break through. But there's also a reason that we hold on to old behaviors, and it's something called secondary gain. So she didn't realize from when she was 3 that she had this false belief about herself not being good enough and not being good enough and not being good enough. But as she expressed and she felt the sadness, and the sadness was felt by others, and she worked so damn hard to find approval, she didn't realize she was trying to find approval for somebody back 57 years ago. But outside of her, people who could feel her genuineness, her heart, and her kindness were saying, but you're such a good person, but you're such a wonderful person. And she truly is. But that's getting some approval. So it's called secondary gain, where that negative feeling about yourself and putting it out there, or that negative behavior or that negative coping skill brings you some kind of fulfillment. You're not going to break the cycle. You're not going to continue it. So although we should be kind to people, when somebody is ready to break past something, the pressure will have them break past something, because I have one question for you. Who in the hell ever changed when it made them feel good?
And on that note, Denise Maple says, I do work with Lisa because she calls me on my bullshit. And that's.
I'm not for everybody. You know what I mean? Because some people are like, oh my God, I'd never go to somebody like you. Okay. Well, that's why there's lots of different personalities with lots of different modalities with lots of different ways. Mm-hmm. I tend to draw in the people who either, number one, are very spiritual and know it's time for me to stop my bullshit and break open here. I want to awaken, or people who are just as challenging, outspoken, and stubborn as I am, because I don't have a lot of fear. The one thing it's very difficult to do for me, I will say, is to intimidate me. But that's not like I was born that way. That's through a lifetime of developing and seeing and being challenged and struggles and, those types of things. So it is very difficult to intimidate me and piss me off faster than you're going to intimidate me. And so I tend to, the universe, whatever perspective you want to look at it, the types of people who need someone who does that, who have, those personality types, are the people that get drawn to me. Does that mean that I'm good for everybody? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I do what I do with love and compassion and genuine, but the types of people who are drawn to me are the people who are either like, I want to just bust out fast and, you know what I mean, kind of do it, or unconsciously or consciously aware that they're a challenging personality type. And so naturally, energetically, we mesh. There's a rapport there. I had somebody in my office one time call me a ball buster. I shouldn't even say one time because it's actually happened twice, but in a situation, they said, oh my God, you're such a ball buster. And I said, okay. And they were a very dominant human being. And I said, okay, for the record, you're not the first or the last person probably that's going to ever say that to me. Had I foo-fooed you and fed into your bullshit and coddled you, where would you be tomorrow? And they said, yeah, I know. And I said, okay, would you like to stop sessions? No. I'm coming back next week. And it was a very bold, dominant man, Right. No, I'm coming back next week. They knew very much that I cared. They knew very much I was going to challenge them. But we have this resistance to discomfort. That's natural. Right. It's to push through it. Think of the weightlifter or the bodybuilder. What if I decided I was going to get thin and fit? Okay, what if we were going to go on a weightlifting thing? If I stopped as soon as my muscles got sore, I'm never going to get anywhere. Man. There's not going to be change. You got to push past the burn. You know what I mean? You got to push to the next level and push through it. So that's what I guide you with, gear you towards, mirror you with, whatever it is. Stop and look at things as feedback and reflection and where it is for you. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks for joining.
And we'll be back again next week, 9 a.m. on 216 The Net with Lisa's Changing Perceptions.
Have a good rest of the day.